off. They will be busy this weekend, a Sunday night game at home against the Titans. Hey, Lake TV brings you 5 local lake area shows. They're all greatness. And check out the high school football coaches show with Lakers coach Jeff Shore and Osage coach Shannon Jolly talking about their teams going into the district semifinal games. Friday night, you can check out the coaches show at 10, 2, and 6, Tuesdays through Fridays, for the rest of the season on Lake TV, and you can see Lake TV on Como Channel 90, absolutely free on Roku or Amazon Fire, and streaming live all the time at mylaketv.com. I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday.
Programming on Key Radio made possible in part by Skelton Key and Lock. When you're locked out of your home, car, or business, every second counts. You need to be sure that the company you choose will answer the call and get to you as quickly as possible. Skelton Key and Lock offers reliable service, reasonable rates, and they're recommended by everyone. They can cut and program new keys and fobs. They can install new locks on your home, business, or rental property. If you can stick a key in it, chances are it can be serviced by Skelton Key and Lock, serving the entire lake area.
I'm Bill Munhausen for Orion Center Expo. One of my wife's favorite things is the variety of woodpeckers in the Ozarks. The woodpecker has an unusually hard beak, and its skull contains built-in shock absorbers that allow the woodpecker to ram that beak into tree trunks and the siding of your house with equal abandon. It drills holes and uses its ridiculously long tongue to probe for bugs in the siding and soffits. But how did the woodpecker come to be? Some scientists speculate that its unique features came about to enable non-woodpecking birds to adopt a new food source. We can only imagine that robin or blue jay millions of years ago pondering its first tree. Countless beaks were crushed and concussions incurred, until finally a woodpecker evolved. But his tongue was too short to get the bugs, so he died. Is woodpecker evolution plausible? Naive stories about evolutionary adaptation are just that, stories. Woodpeckers were designed. They were created to protect forest trees from destructive pests.
This is your chance to get involved in community radio Lake of the Ozarks with 89.3, The Key. All right, it is 8:08. Feeling it this morning, man. What a beautiful day. What an outstanding day. Yesterday, how incredible was yesterday? And so we're going to string a few of those days together and make for some incredible fall weather at the Lake of the Ozarks. Aren't we just some lucky people like Skelton?
We are, my friend. Lord is shining on us.
Yeah, the place is so beautiful. The place is so wonderful. We get to enjoy fall in one of the most beautiful places on God's green earth. 47 degrees in Osage Beach as we're broadcasting live from the world headquarters of SRG Financial Advisors. Yeah, nice place, cool people. They can help you out with all of your financial needs, whatever it may be. get you taken care of for the future, get you taken care of for the immediate period. If, you need to get everything in order. You've got some taxes that you need worked on. They do all that good stuff. And we're very blessed to have the opportunity to broadcast live from the studio. The SRG Financial Advisors Key Radio in-studio live cam is up and running this morning, so give that a look-see on my Facebook page. And something else I would like to do is have the opportunity to kind of branch out and to put this program on other Facebook sites as well. So if you're interested, let me know. 53 degrees in Camdenton, on our way to a high today of 77 wonderful degrees, a mostly sunny day. 56 with a clear to partly cloudy sky tonight. And then partly cloudy and 78 tomorrow. Clouds and 78 on Friday. Morning showers and 58 the high on Saturday. But we'll rebound nicely with a beautiful day to round out the weekend. Sunny and 71. Mostly sunny and 73 on Monday. Partly cloudy 75 next Tuesday. Partly cloudy 74 on Wednesday. Just some phenomenal fall weather. And you're going to have those days where you run into a high temperature of only 58. Now, toward the end of next weekend, or should I say the following weekend, the 12th and 13th, how about 49 for the high? 49. And then we're going to hit a stretch of upper 40s as we get into that next week. But who cares? Let's enjoy this beautiful weather before it is all gone and before we're left with that unenviable task of having to get all those leaves taken care of.
Just let the wind do it.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, you can spend all your time when you got all the trees around, you spend all your time raking them up, and then the next weekend there's more leaves again, and then the next weekend there's more.
I've been trying to tell the next door neighbor that. I'm like, you're out there every weekend, dude, and you're blowing those leaves. And he's like, well, I want to keep the yard looking nice. I get that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what kids are for.
Right, exactly. Let them make a pile.
Put them to work, have them rake all the leaves in the back and jump in them, and then just kind of blow them off into the woods a little bit.
And as wet as they are right now, it's kind of tough to move them around.
Yeah, but maybe it adds a little extra padding or something when you jump in them.
By next spring, I rake them from around the house. You know that fire hazard, whatever.
Yeah.
And for the most part, my lawn is clean.
Hazard,
well, you can't. Yeah, you don't want them bunched up around your house.
No.
But rake those away, and for real, my yard by the end of the spring there aren't any leaves, and I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's why I did.
Let Mother Nature
absolutely
run her course there.
You bet.
Come on through, Mother Nature, whatever you want to do. Good morning, Delta. Thank you for the start to a wonderful day. Let's see here. We've got Professor Jim Paisley coming up in hour number 2 this morning. He's going to be talking about inflation.
No.
Oh, inflation. And he's not
too much consuming going on out there.
Too much consuming. Do we need to consume less?
That's what they say.
Yeah. Consume less and pay more in the way of taxes, right?
Yeah.
Give more money.
Yeah.
Let them do whatever they need to do there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because of course we trust the government with our money.
Yeah, not so much. Now this is their skimming time. The higher your interest rates are, this is actually real wealth that they're taking off the top of Americans. So they flood all the cash out there. So we want to go spend it. Everything gets more expensive. They raise the interest rates, and that's when they start clawing back actual wealth and keeping it in their pocket.
That's right. Good morning, David Thomas, and he says, by the way, mulch them up with a lawnmower. Those leaves.
Yeah, there you go. That works too.
Joe, good morning, sir, and good morning to the mayor of Osage Beach, Michael Harmison Sr.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, love to have you with us, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. Glad to have you with us this morning, and yes, good morning from Delta as well to myself and to Ike. What did I do? Did you see me? I must have done it.
What you did?
I must have done some flailing.
Uh-oh.
I have to reset the camera.
Oh, I didn't do any flailing.
I know you didn't.
I didn't do nothing, I don't think.
No, you didn't. No,
I could have.
It wasn't you at all, man.
All right,
It was not you at all.
Finally, this time I'm free of it. Free of guilt.
Yes, he's not the flailer. Unfortunately, he's the flailee.
Flailee? That doesn't sound good either, but okay.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in county government. You said that there's a commission meeting tomorrow, and you'll be in attendance for that.
Yeah, I got had one yesterday, and they brought in MDD, which is the outfit that was hired to conduct the audit, the forensic audit of the, I guess primarily the collector's office at this time to find out what where these monies are going and where they need to be going, and talk to them. They're really good people. Seem like they really know their stuff. They're not as involved in government things in the past, which I think a lot of us that looked at it kind of liked that idea. There's no built-in biases. There's no expectations already, no preconceived notions, what have you. They've delved into the government realm a little bit. They primarily deal with private businesses, though, and but they delve into the private realm a little bit. They're actually, of the two that that participated first, there were several that maybe wanted to, but they wouldn't been able to start for like a month or better down the road. And this has been going on long enough already. We need to get some results and find out what's happening. So we looked at a couple of the ones that, and I was a little bit involved in it. I wasn't too deeply involved, but we looked at the ones that could get in it, and the one outfit that has done a lot of government work before still couldn't maybe be involved for a few weeks yet. And MDD, fascinatingly enough, yesterday, when was asked when they were going to get started, they actually said, well, we're going to get started this afternoon.
I see.
So that's a really, I mean, when somebody like that tells you, oh, well, we're going to start today, that's kind of encouraging already. They're ready to get the work done.
Yeah, for more than that.
Absolutely. They're ready to get the work done. And they're actually, of the two that were considered, they're the only ones that are have an actual forensic auditor on board in their company. The other company was going to have to hire someone to come and do the actual forensic part of it. So that's kind of neat. That's already part of their firm. It's what they do. So they've started their interviews with folks. And they explained that the first phase of all of this will be gathering information to kind of get a starting point on how things work and where we're at right now, and some place to jump off of. So I think they're a good outfit, and they should have us some results, I think, probably quicker than maybe a lot of people would anticipate. So
outstanding. Get it figured out, get it fixed,
get in there, get it done. That's exactly right,
yeah.
and try to spend as little as money as possible. So
that's right.
I'm encouraged with them.
Mr. Mayor, get a hold of me. I want to get you back on the program to talk about what's going on here in the city of Osage Beach. Don Akers Jr., good morning to you, sir. He says, morning, gents. Well, good morning to you. And I'm wearing my Jones Outpost. This is kind of a collector's item now.
Oh, all right.
Got the Jones Outpost shirt on. Of course, it says love, peace, and bacon grease on the back.
There you go.
Can't go wrong.
No.
Can't go wrong.
No, right? Anything involving bacon grease is usually
bacon, grease, bacon-related. The jalapeno bacon jam that they make at Twisted Tony's, I'll tell you what. I ran into those folks, Megan and Anthony, the other night. They were out shopping, and I said, whatever it takes. And they make this jalapeno bacon jam, right? They make it in-house, and you got to open some windows because jalapenos, onions, and garlic that are, cooking down in a pot.
Sure.
If you get too close, you don't want to.
You know it already, huh? Yeah, it's almost like pepper spray.
But if you bring them a container, they will sell it to you.
They'll make it for you. I bet they would.
They, you bring like a big container, and they'll sell you, I don't know if it's ounces or pounds.
Does it have to be lead-lined or something so that the stuff won't eat through it?
No.
Maybe it needs to be glass so it doesn't dissolve it?
Once it's all done and put together.
All right.
And so I think I'm going to head up there and see what I can see and figure out what I can figure out because, yeah, buddy.
So you need to come up with a bacon thing like they did on Forrest Gump for shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have bacon wrap, bacon jam, bacon burgers, bacon sandwiches.
You're speaking my language, brother. Yeah.
Just go through a whole litany.
Absolutely.
Bacon cake, bacon pie.
You've got it all.
Probably
Maple bacon donuts.
Maple bacon, bacon donuts. See, we can start a list like they did.
Yeah.
Sure, there you go.
And just kind of go down run down the list because you're bound to find something or possibly everything on that list that's appealing.
Right.
8:18 is our time. 573-633-5395 is the Key Radio Community Hotline number. If you've got something on your mind, you want to talk to Ike, you want to talk to me. Maybe, the next presiding commissioner of Camden County is sitting in the room, and you've got something you'd like to discuss with him, maybe something you'd like him to look into, and he's got time to do that now. Not a whole lot of time,
Not quite yet, but we're getting there.
Has
closer.
it been going by? Does it seem like it's been going by pretty fast?
No, man, this is like a snail moving across a road. These 4 months, and James told me it would be that way, and he's right. He's 100% right because I have been contacted by a lot of folks about a lot of different problems, little things here and there. I have no authority to do anything yet. I'm ready to jump in and start getting it done, So, I've been involved. The guys up there already, been involved in things and some of the decision-making processes. So
Jerry says, up and at 'em, you two. 59 more days. Ike Skelton takes office as presiding commissioner of Camden County, Missouri. Busy here selling feed, buying black walnuts, and buying recycling in Max Creek, Missouri.
Morning, Jerry.
I don't know. Jerry is just he's kind of taken on a whole new persona. It's just like he's Mr. Positive about everything now, and I don't know what has happened.
Well, he every time I've gone to visit him, he's good. He's full of spirits and ready to roll, and not the liquid spirits, just spirit. Just life and energy, and it's fun
Maybe
to go.
Something has changed in his life to just put him in a better frame of mind.
Maybe I don't.
Quite possibly. I know you offered to take him out to lunch the other day.
Yeah. I was out that way. Sure enough.
And where was the place that you were going to go?
We were going to go to Hillbilly Hut.
Yeah, it's
good food.
They've got good food there.
Good food there.
Talk a little bit about Hillbilly Hut.
Well, I went there anyway. I went and had the French dip. That was yummy. It was all hot and fresh, and the boss himself was making it. So, it was good stuff. It's and relative. Reasonably priced as well. It's fascinating because now, before you went out to Max Creek, you kind of wondered, well, if I'm out this way, I want to get something to eat. What am I going to do? And now you got a few different places. You got the Burger Basket? Is that what it's called? Okay, you got that. You got Hillbilly Hut. You got Rise and Shine Diner right downtown in Max Creek now, and all three of those places are great venues to get chow. So,
Max Creek returning to its past as a thriving metropolis.
Maybe, yeah.
Let's go Max Creek.
Get
Love
3 or
Max
4
Creek.
people moving in there, and it'll be something.
Of course, you've got Encompass Purpose out there.
Yep.
If you need to stop by and talk to them, they've got that seminar. We were talking to Joe Justice yesterday.
Machine Gun Preacher.
Machine Gun Preacher on November the 4th.
Did you watch the show, the movie?
I have not.
Seen the movie?
Is it a good movie?
It's fascinating. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
The stuff this guy went through, I'd be fascinating to meet him and shake his hand because,
Guess what? We're going to try and get him on the program tomorrow morning at 9:40.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah, Brad's working on that for me as we speak.
Very cool.
It is 8:21 again, 573-633-5395. Call in this morning and, you got a little plug you want to give somebody for something, a business, a local business out there. It's a good movie, says Shauna Ketchum. She says, good movie. Cool to hear about Max Creek. Yeah, it's great. Max Creek, you know what? I've always kind of contemplated moving out to Max Creek.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a beautiful
How's
area.
That playground out there? Are they still...
with the playground to be candid with you, it was a big topic during the campaign. I had never seen the place before. I happened to go up to another individual's house Monday and work on a safe, and I drove right by the park, and I stopped there and talked to one of the road and bridge guys for a little bit and looked at the park, and it is I was impressed at how big it is. They've got a lot of room.
Yeah.
I mean, that bottom land down there does flood, I guess, from time to time. But they've got a lot of room to do a lot of neat things. And I think once we can get another park board established, there was one, get one established, get it for real, create some other things for them, an infrastructure in place. And the one of the issues with that park was that there was a grant, I guess, gotten to get some playground equipment and some other things. And the downside of that grant, and here's the problem with some grants, they tell you what you can and cannot do with a lot of different things. And one of the things that Max Creek cannot do with this park is sell it. So they can't sell the land to anybody. They can't do anything.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, it does tie your hands to do things with that if you wanted to.
Got to maintain the park, though.
So now you have to maintain the park, right? So yeah, once we get things together, and I think we're going to sign some sort of a document that will actually turn that park over to those folks so that they can raise money and do with it as they wish, and truly have it as a really good place for their community, and finally get that whole issue resolved if we can, and just let it be there for the people. So,
Debbie, do you live in Max Creek? It says cool to hear about Max Creek. Do you live in Max Creek? I like Max Creek.
I think not only Max Creek, but I think this entire area is just ready to explode. And not just because of, primarily probably because of COVID, the exposure we got during that time, the folks that have come down here during that time just to see out of curiosity, have found out what we actually are and what we're all about down here. And I think they enjoy that and they want to come back. And we're doing something right when we're already kind of being attacked and demonized. Because what some silly report I saw come out that, Lake of the Ozarks is like one of the most dangerous lakes or something in the country.
It's like any other lake.
Not only that, did they take into account that Lake of the Ozarks is also probably one of the most awesome lakes in the entire country, where you can actually go out and enjoy yourself on boats and have a house right on the lake that you can sit there and watch things go on? So,
Look at all the fishing tournaments.
Absolutely.
And all the money that lake brings in. And the fishing tournaments happen to the tune of, it seems like almost at least one every weekend.
Yes, they do a lot.
So,
they're on it.
Let's say 100 folks come down for a fishing tournament or more. What kind of numbers does that generate? And are we kind of missing the boat on promoting some of these events? We have the Big Bass Bash twice a year now, spring and fall. You've got a lot of other tournaments that they have, and fishermen from around the country just love the Lake of the Ozarks for that particular reason, and certainly what it means. And then the talk of the new Big Thunder Park that's going to open up, that big tourist destination.
That's a fascinating concept. I can't completely see it in my head there, but hey, more power to them. If they can make that thing happen, that'd be something pretty crazy and awesome right there.
Outstanding, folks. So a lot of things to be excited about at the Lake of the Ozarks. It would be neat to see the county invest in a food program, chickens or even garden area. We spend all this money on parks to just cut the grass. Let's grow a healthy community together.
Well, the county doesn't spend really any money on parks. We don't have any kind of a park board or anything of that nature. They have spent maybe a little bit in the past on the Max Creek Park, say, for instance. And I don't know that anything going forward will really be spent on it out of the county treasury. But, there are community gardens around, especially in various, in your community. You get 20, 30 neighbors together or whatever. Guess somebody's got a plot of land. You want to put a garden in? Go do it. You don't need anything from anybody else to go do that.
I have some friends. I know some people that set up there in the Roach area. They have like a little farmer's market type setup.
Sure.
I think a farmer's market right there in the Max Creek area would be great. That's something maybe to look forward to in 2023. Get some folks together, organize it, put it together. And I mean, you drive, have it right there off of 54, maybe some signage and things along those lines. Well, that'd be a great place for a farmer's market. And when I say farmer's market, I mean a farmer's market. I mean, let's bring out produce, let's bring out, meats and things like that.
Chickens, the whole 9 yards, huh? Little piglets.
Yeah, and we don't want to steal the thunder of the Jacob's Cave swapping days, but, you could have something like that.
It doesn't...
Charge everybody a little, fee to come out and set up, and that way it kind of helps fund things, and you could promote it and advertise it. I'd love to come out there and set up and, do like a live broadcast or 10 from the farmer's market.
What happened to the big flea markets, like a Jacob's Cave event? I remember growing up, Peevely, at the theater there, the drive-in in Peevely, Missouri, had a huge flea market every weekend.
Right.
And we would go down there. Dad would set up and sell things. He was an operating engineer and make money on the side. He bought things at auction and went and sold them at the flea markets. You don't see those around anymore either. So that'd be like what you're talking about, down in Max Creek. That'd be interesting to do this.
Jellies, homemade, whatever people like to can, if it's tomatoes, if it's green beans, whatever, and just bring it all out. They rank us worst based on the number of deaths. If they did a study of deaths as a percentage of boaters on the lake, we'd be a long ways from the worst.
That's what I'm saying. They don't take into account. Yeah, they don't take into account the amount of actual traffic we have out here, and the more traffic you're going to have, unfortunately, it just creates an environment where more accidents and problems can occur, just simply because you have more people in the mix. So, they want to throw out statistics like that because I think that, again,
they're jealous.
There's some jealousy, and there's also, as well as I do, there's a portion of individuals in this country that do not want us to be able to use our natural environments for our own uses and pleasures and enjoyments and whatnot. They're wackos. They just want you to stay off of it and look at it from a distance and stay away.
Now, those two major cities on either side of us have always been putting out articles about E. coli and various other things.
Yet their folks flood down here.
And they come down here and they get down here and they look around and they say, "Good morning, Tanya." They say, well, we're down here. It's really not that bad. What's all the hubbub? But I don't know if you could have some sort of lake-wide revitalization program and really kind of get the people behind it. I think that's what really makes an area so special is the people. And we have so many interesting people and so many unique people, and we've got so many wonderful people, and certainly a lot of the people that retire down here. And you had mentioned that as part of your campaign, and I think there were some of the other folks that ran for presiding commissioner that want to utilize retired people, second homeowners, because of what they bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And I encourage anyone out there who's retired or a second homeowner, find yourself a little pet project, jump on board, and make it hum, baby.
And, keep an eye on your county government as we go forward, because we're going to have to come up with a new master plan. When you have a planning and zoning area, you're required to have a master plan. And since we have that, we need to update what we have. And a lot of times, counties, city governments, what have you, will hire some sort of a firm. That's what they do. They come in and they create your master plan, and they give you a few different options. Do you want option A, B, or C? It really narrows it down to things, and they charge you a whole bunch of money. I will explore with the other commissioners and see if we can't seek volunteers from the lake area to sit down. It might take a year. It might take a little longer to sit down and draw up a master plan that the people that live here, play here, work here, have retired here, can be a part of creating that thing. And we might have to have some professional firm actually put it all together, into a structured master plan. I don't know. Maybe we have some folks right here in the area that have done that for a living. And that's my point. Let's draw these folks in and utilize what we have right here and make Camden County and the lake area unique for the people that live here.
I'm digging this first hour, man, because we're all putting our heads together and working towards a common cause. And see, folks, it can be done. Political affiliation, religious beliefs, whatever. I think when we all look at what we have and can wrap our brains around the greater good, that sort of thing really doesn't make any difference. But then sometimes it starts to kind of trickle in here and there. Need to take a break. Jerry says plenty of room over at the Max Creek Community Park to have what both of you were talking about, a farmer's market.
There is.
Pay a fee to use to maintain the park, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
It is no one's intention to make money off of the 9 acres, just to make it a better place for those that live here, not those in the future. A nice area with bathrooms and water as well for public use. And Debbie says my son's job is Atlantis Dock and Dive. And that's Tim McNitt over there with Atlantis, and he can tell you for 10 years all about the boat traffic and accidents. You can't believe how many people lose things here, and the lake, including both, and sometimes, unfortunately, human beings. The worst, it says, this thing keeps jumping around here. The worst we've had down here has been involved with a highway patrolman not taking precaution with a young man from Kansas, and the young man lost his life. That was a big embarrassment. I think that was, I don't know if she's referring to the kid from Iowa.
I think so.
Is who she's talking about. Listening from J.D. Weber is listening from Nokomis, Florida. As much as I like the weather here, I'm wishing I was back home at the lake. We miss you, brother. Bradley Burke says, I'll have it for free, indoor and outdoor. So if you want to do something like that.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's
awesome.
a big area up there, too.
Yeah, he's got a nice front yard.
Yes, sir.
At Encompass Purpose.
Yeah.
Let's break for news and sports. We've got Stacy Johnson with LakeExpo.com. We have also got Mr. Chris Schneider with Lake TV. It's The Daily Show. We're having fun. Ike Skelton is our guest. Phone lines open, 573-633-5395.
Stacy Johnson, and this is your Lake Expo News Cut for Wednesday, November 2nd. In this election, Lake Ozark voters have the option to move existing tax money from sewer improvements into water and road infrastructure. The existing half-cent sales tax generates more than $500,000 annually and is used exclusively for sewer infrastructure. The state of Missouri has launched a new $1 million scholarship fund to address officer shortages across the state. The Missouri Blue Fund pays $5,000 towards the cost of a Missouri resident attending a law enforcement academy in the state. Scholarships are now available and will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Preliminary data from Missouri Conservation shows hunters harvested nearly 2,000 turkeys during the fall turkey season. Top harvest counties were Franklin with 70 birds harvested, Gascade with 52, and Laclede with 50. Fall archery turkey hunting continues through November 11th and resumes November 23rd through January 15th. This has been your Lake Expo News Cut. All this news and more at lakeexpo.com. Lake news, events, boating, and the lake life, lakeexpo.com.
Portions of the programming on Key Radio are made possible through a generous donation from lakeexpo.com. LakeExpo.com is a locally owned daily news website connecting residents, second homeowners, visitors, and the boating community to the Lake of the Ozarks. Lake Expo features real estate and boats for sale, upcoming events at the lake, and their exclusive boating club, X-Tow. Download the free Lake Expo app on the App Store and Google Play. LakeExpo.com, the lake's trusted news source.
I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. World Series, the Phillies up 2-1 after a 7-0 win over the Astros last night. This Phillies team started out by beating the Cardinals in that wild card series, and here they are, just 2 wins away from winning the World Series. So Game 4 will go tonight. Astros need to win it or they're going to be in serious trouble. High school football Friday is coming. Camdenton and Osage will be playing at home district semifinal games. Camdenton 8-1, ranked number 4 in the state, home against Rolla Friday. That's the game of the week on Lake TV. The COMC pregame show at 6:30. The Polylift Boat Lift kickoff at 7. Camdenton at home against Rolla district semifinal. Osage will be at home against Clinton on Friday night. That, too, is a district semifinal. Osage at home against Clinton. Eldon finished their season 3-7. Versailles finished 1-9. California finished its season at 4-6. College football, the first playoff ranking is out. Tennessee sits at number 1. The Volunteers, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson in the top 4 spots. Mizzou will be at home Saturday against Kentucky. MSU Bears will be on the road to play South Dakota. The Chiefs, of course, had last week off. They will be busy this weekend, a Sunday night game at home against the Titans. Hey, Lake TV brings you 5 local lake area shows. They're all greatness. And check out the high school football coaches show with Lakers coach Jeff Shore and Osage coach Shannon Jolly talking about their teams going into the district semifinal games. Friday night, you can check out the coaches show at 10, 2, and 6, Tuesdays through Fridays, for the rest of the season on Lake TV, and you can see Lake TV on Como Channel 90, absolutely free on Roku or Amazon Fire, and streaming live all the time at mylaketv.com. I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday.
Portions of our programming on Key Radio made possible thanks to Lake TV.
Lake TV is your hometown local TV station, featuring Cup of Coffee with Will and Chris, What's Burning with KB, live high school sports, real estate, dining, boating, and of course the annual Lake of the Ozarks Shootout. Lake TV on Como Connect, Channel 90, Roku, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, and of course online at mylaketv.com. If it's happening at the lake, it's happening on Lake TV.
This is Happy Headlines. I'm David Beach, bringing you good news and heartwarming stories to help you through your day, your week, your month, your year, your decade, whatever it takes. Here's today's story. Winston Lee is a history teacher in Whitesburg, Kentucky. He teaches at Letcher County Central High School. He's been teaching for 12 years now, and the story probably made the news because in all of those 12 years, something happened that he'd never witnessed before. In this day and age, regardless of the size of the gesture, gestures are appreciated. Apparently this happened in February, and I just found out, but I wanted to share it. And so did Winston, as he posted it on his Facebook page. He was grading a stack of exams about World War II that he'd recently given to his 11th grade students when he noticed a note written on the bottom of one of the tests. The note said, "If you could, can you give my bonus points to whoever scores the lowest?" Winston said the student is a straight-A guy but couldn't believe the generosity the kid displayed. "I was pleasantly surprised," he said. "He's the type of kid that would often show compassion in the classroom." Winston decided to share the student's note on his Facebook page, where the image went viral. "Have to shout this out. Honestly, have never seen this," he wrote. "One of my guys, a straight A+ guy, offers up his 5 bonus points to someone in need. Anyone, totally offering up what is rightfully his earning, to any peer that might have been struggling especially hard the day of the test. He didn't care if he considered them a friend. He didn't care if they were cool. Didn't matter to him what situation had caused them to score lower. He just wanted to help. Be kind. Commit a loving act." The note gave me so much hope. Let us all be a little bit more like this young man. Winston says that he did as the student asked, giving the extra 5 points he'd earned to a student who scored a 58. The anonymous points donation was enough to boost her grade to passing. She was really thankful, so it turned out great. The teacher said she does not know who gave her the points. I wonder if she knows now. It obviously made her day, and didn't hurt her grade average either. That is a happy headline. This is Happy Headlines. Thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay healthy, and find a way to make someone's day.
We're happy to be the Lake Sounding Board. Community radio for the Lake of the Ozarks. It's 89.3, The Key. It is 8:41, and you are listening to The Daily Show. Thank you so much for taking some time to check us out and what we're doing. If you're new to the program, there are a variety of ways that you can listen in, one of which is on 89.3. You can also check us out at keyradio.live. We've got free apps for your cell phones, the iPhone, the Android, whatever you'd like to do. Just go to your store, whatever it is, and look us up. And, of course, we have the SRG Financial Advisors, Key Radio, in-studio, live camera. If you'd like to talk to us this morning, you can get through at 573-633-5395. That is the Key Radio Community Hotline, whatever is on your mind. Let us know, baby. It's going to be a beautiful day, 77 the high, 56 the low. A sunny day, maybe a few clouds, clear to partly cloudy tonight, partly cloudy and 78 tomorrow. Possibly now some showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon, evening on Friday, but a high of 78, partly cloudy and 58 on Saturday, sunny and 71 on Sunday. Where are we at temperature-wise? Well, in Osage Beach, we are sitting pretty at 48 degrees, 55 in Camdenton. Current stats at the Bagnell Dam, 656.95, the current lake level, 551.58, the river level. And the surface water temperature, maybe not the best day to go skinny dipping, 63 degrees is where we're at.
I probably shouldn't say nothing after that.
That's one of those things you kind of caught you off guard, didn't I?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and yeah. You just leave that alone right there.
We're having fun, and we want to get this program out to as many people as possible, so I'd love to be able to put the live feed maybe on your Facebook page, some of the other Facebook pages that we have available, like Lake Area Happenings. I don't know, whoever might be interested in letting us hook up, we could hook up with the feed and get it out there to more folks and let everybody see what's going on here in the studio, talking about the beautiful Lake of the Ozarks and this wonderful community that we live in. And we've been having a lot of fun doing that this morning. Do not forget that the true history professor, his name is Professor Jim Paisley, will be joining us here shortly. Good morning, Misty. Good morning, Bobby Lee. Good morning, Karen Paisley. Today is Karen's birthday.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Karen.
Happy birthday to that beautiful
Absolutely.
lady. Boy, man, she's got her hands full.
What a fighter.
We always...
And then there's Jim.
Well, the thing is... the thing is we always give her a hard time, but in reality, I think the hard time goes to her. Well, maybe we should start leaning on Jim a little bit more. I don't know, but Karen, she's always working around there. He's always he makes it seem like she's just doing a bunch of stuff and getting in his hair and things along those lines, but
probably keeping him on track.
I think so.
More info than that.
I think
out of trouble and everything else, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So
you'll have to ask him about an award he won. He won Sunday.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, just a quick shout-out to the Camden County Republican Central Committee.
Yeah.
Had a great shoot at the first annual shoot at the range, the sheriff's range out there.
That was great.
That was a lot of fun, man. It was just a blast.
We had Matt Burns and John Beckett in to talk about that.
Yep.
And it was great, a great turnout. How did you do? Did you do all right?
Well, yeah, I shot okay.
Yeah. What did you? Which one of the many firearms that you own, or did you use several?
No, I used my HK VP9.
HK VP9.
Yeah. Heckler and Koch. Yeah, or Coke, or however you pronounce it. I don't know.
Outstanding.
Something like that. Yeah. So yeah,
KOCH.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of did. They say I took first place, so I don't know. We did all right. First time I've ever shot like that.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. I know you can't carry in the courthouse, can you?
Well, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a pistol packing presiding commissioner?
Well, never can tell. If I told you concealed wouldn't matter much then, would it? No. So
That's
I don't
true.
know. We'll see.
That's something to keep in the back of your mind if you go up there and want to cause trouble. 8:45 is our time, so we wanted to talk a little bit about this upcoming presiding commissioners meeting. So let's talk.
Yeah, so got another meeting tomorrow, and on the agenda is Missouri Lake Development.
I say presiding commissioners. How about commission meeting?
Yes, there you go. So the first thing on the agenda is Missouri Lake Development. They'll be back in. They were in one day last week. Had a little kind of a little contract they wanted to go through the county with on their development, and I have to say, I think that these guys are coming in and they have some very interesting plans. Some of it, to me, just because it's me, is a little pie in the sky. But if they can get it done, it'll be fantastic. A lot of moving parts to make that happen. So, but anyhow, they're, I think I like their development a lot because they're not coming to any government at this time anyway, with their hands out looking for a bunch of anything. They've just got some agreements they want to go through. I mean, obviously the city is going to annex them, and there's a lot of things the city is going to wind up doing. But still, the city really isn't just giving up anything, But there's a little tax once they build the infrastructure. They would like to have those monies reimbursed, and it'll be reimbursed through a partial sales tax situation, but it's not a TIF. Come out and ask questions about it. If you have any questions about it or concerns, they'll be in the meeting tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure that's what they'll be discussing is that contract. So come out and take a look and ask questions and give your input. After them is a S&W gas contract. That sounds pretty benign. And then a request for surplus funds. And then the sheriff.
Man. Have you seen what the cost of propane is these days? I remember.
Yeah. I mean, if we can buy anything like that up front on some sort of a solid ground, I think we're going to be doing good. The bad part is, as we have been told, and I hope this doesn't hold true, but right now the county buys bulk fuel in advance for the sheriff's department and road and bridge. And it's my understanding that we might not be able to do that next year. So we won't have a locked-in price. And not only that, the locked-in price we have right now for fuel is substantially lower than what people are paying at the pump. The very downside is we may start, as a county, have to start paying what is on at the pump. And if we start doing that, man, that is going to eat into budgets very, very heavily, just like everybody at home.
Yeah.
You know, it's eating in all of our budgets. It's going to eat into that county's budget real big, real fast, and real hard. And asphalt has gone through the roof because of prices of oil. So, yeah, there's going to be some things to watch here in the very near future. And then there's a sheriff state DTF grant, which is a drug task force grant for some more monies for those folks to deal with drug issues. So that's the agenda. It looks like it'll be held, let's see, at the commission office building, unless otherwise stated. That's where we'll have that. Come on out and give your input, listen to what's going on in your county, and see if you have anything to say about things.
See if you have anything to say. Yes.
Yeah.
Get out there and let folks know what's on your mind.
Encourage participation in all those sorts of things.
Don Akers Jr., thank you so much. Don shared it to Lake Area Happenings and Camden County Concerned Citizens. So we're talking about the video feed getting out there.
Outstanding.
Thanks, Ike Skelton. We're glad you're on our side.
Well, thank you very much. You guys did all the work. I mean, I just knocked on a few doors.
Well, there's still work to be done.
There's a lot of work to be done.
No. I'm talking November the 8th. We still
still got to do that. That's right. Yeah.
Got to go out there and finish the job.
That's right.
Finish what you started.
Got to pull the trigger one more time.
Pull the trigger.
Then we'll get at it.
Yeah.
And I'm ready. I'm just fired up, and I am. I'm ready to have so many.
Can we do something though? I'm going to take a before and after picture. When you start before with a big smile on your face, and then you know how anybody who's watched a president, when they win the election,
isn't that remarkable?
And they go into the White House, maybe the president and the first lady. And what they look like when they go in as opposed to what they look like when they leave. And sometimes, I mean, they look pretty rough when they're walking out for the final time to jump on Marine One.
Yeah, I know.
And head on over to Air Force One to go back to wherever they're from.
Well, Rush Limbaugh warned us of that if Hillary Clinton would ever be elected as president, so he warned how bad that could be. But you're right, man.
Matthew says with the price of fuel and natural gas going up, like Ike said, it looks like the county will have to cut back. You can't raise taxes when everyone is strapped due to the same reasons.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, there's only so much of the pie to go around, you know, and if you can't increase the pie, which the government doesn't have the ability to create more jobs and all those sorts of things. I don't care what anybody thinks. Government does not create jobs.
They don't.
No,
they just bring in more bureaucrats to.
That's right.
Start new departments.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So
then money has to be fed to that department in order to keep it up and running.
That's right. That's right.
Would it be nice, and we were talking about this the other day, why can't we talk about things like America First? And so I was reading an op-ed from the American Thinker that came out, I think it was August of 2020. And it got me thinking about just exactly how this whole process works. Trump was talking about America First, and he wasn't, like being arrogant or anything like that, but it's just, taking care of our needs and things along those lines. But talking about our, as they call them, do they call themselves leaders, or do we refer to them as leaders? And the point I'm trying to make here is they're elected officials, and they're supposed to go to Jeff City or Washington, D.C. and do what the people want them to do. And it seems like initially when I'm out there campaigning and I'm saying, I'll put a chicken in every pot and this, that, and the other thing, and then they get to the land of milk and honey, and it's not about the will of the people. It's like, this is what we feel would be best for all of you. We want to create this bill or this piece of little Freudian slip there, this piece of legislation. and so on and so forth. And then they really just kind of lose focus, man. They just lose focus big time.
Well, I think one of the bigger problems, especially when you go to Jefferson City or Washington, D.C., is you think you're going to go up there and fix a whole bunch of problems, when in reality, what I think you need to do is follow the Constitution and stay out of everybody's problems and let us fix them ourselves, especially at the federal level. And, you know, I think we as a people are mostly at fault because we're asking them to fix a lot of problems for us when they don't have the authority to do it. And then here we are. That's how we have this big, huge, bloated government. Look, you know, wouldn't it be smarter if we had this itty bitty little federal government that did the little bitty few things that they needed, and then a state government that was probably fairly decent sized to take care of a lot of the issues around at the state, and then maybe at the local level, that's where you truly handled most of tax dollars and things that needed to be done? Because look, it's right down here where things need to be fixed. This is where the roads and bridges actually are that need to be fixed. This is where the health concerns of the public actually are, is right down here that need to be addressed. Among other things, it's all local, and that's where we need to deal with most of those issues.
Let's take a phone call. Caller, thanks for joining us. You're on The Daily Show. What's up? Good morning.
How's it going, fellas? Good program this morning so far.
Good morning. Thanks so far. Uh-oh, what you got for us, man? Is it fixing to go downhill?
Well, no. I was going to say, you know, one of the best things that we could do as a country to help everyday, you know, men and women out there working, struggling people, county governments, city governments, state governments, would be to get the price of oil down. Because like you said, it takes petroleum to build roads. It takes petroleum to fill your gas tank, to do just about everything. And a lot of that price is built off of future speculation of oil exploration and production and refining and all of that. So when you hear folks say that shutting down pipelines that were, for example, the Keystone Pipeline, I've heard people say, well, it wasn't in production, so it had no effect on the price of oil. That's just simply not true, because you're shutting down future speculation of that production. And so if we don't turn this around and start gearing up towards, you know, strengthening our energy production, we're not going to get this price of oil down. And green energy may be a worthy cause, but it's not going to build a road. Technology's not there yet.
That's true. And, you know, a lot of people try to say that, you know, the federal government, the president, does not affect oil prices, which is fascinating, because as soon as Donald Trump was out of office and Joe Biden was in, oil prices started to go up and gasoline automatically started going up. And because of reasons just like you mentioned, folks know that this president folks know that this president is a so-called green, you know, so they're going to get away from fossil fuels. So automatically, you're right, prices go up because of future speculation of potential supply. So, yeah, you're spot on, man.
Yeah, and it might as well be a tax increase on everybody, because whenever you dump trillions of dollars into the economy and you shut down production and you raise the prices of goods and services and of fuel and petroleum cost, you might as well be levying a tax on everybody, and it really harms the poor is what it really does, because they don't have the expendable money.
That's exactly correct. You know, you come up with a budget and you try to stay within it, and if you don't have that big emergency fund, you know, then you're suffering because all the other prices go up. And, you know, I don't know. That's the bad part about it. You know, the states can't. Well, I guess they could, honestly. Why won't Texas, Oklahoma, Alaska just start drilling more wells in their state and say, hey, we're going to pump oil out of the ground whether the federal government wants us to or not, and just start doing it. And they could create a higher supply.
How could they stop them, you think?
Other than other than the barrel of a gun, you tell me how they could stop them.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many
They
federal
take away their funding. You think, Matt?
Federal roadblocks in place. Yeah.
Well,
There's just so many roadblocks in place at the federal level. I just don't. I think they would tie them up in court for years if they tried that.
Well, I think the bigger problem is the way the financial banks and everything are in place. You know, the federal government could just challenging a corporation that we're going to take your bank account, you know, and go in and tap your bank account
Right.
if we have to do that is chilling enough, you know. Yeah.
Right.
So,
no, we got to solve it through the elections.
But what if a state actually started to? What if I'm definitely not into a state-owned energy company. Yet at the same time, if the federal government is tying your hands so much, why can't a state government actually be the principal well driller or coal digger or whatever the case? Because now you got to come after a government agency instead of a private entity, right?
So federally,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think.
I was just going to say federally marijuana is illegal, correct?
Sure, right, of course.
But there are states that are legalizing it medically and on the recreational level, and what's being done to them?
Well, I think that is you're right, and that's the principle, but that is not a topic that the federal government cares to come after you because, I mean, so what? You've legalized weed, whoop-de-doo. That doesn't fit into their bigger plan. But if you start drilling for oil and digging your own coal without their permission or creating your own electricity through a hydroelectric dam without their permission, then they get antsy and excited about that.
I guess, yeah. Sorry about that. Hey, Matt, thanks for chiming in, buddy, and keep your phone handy. I'm going to call you a little later on, and I need to talk to you about something. It's
good shooting, by the way.
Yeah, good shooting, by the way, I understand. You did really well.
Second best in Camden County. See ya.
Take care of it.
Thanks, buddy. Behind the next presiding commissioner of Camden County.
That was a lot of fun. That was a whole lot of fun. You have to make sure you're out there next time.
I don't know about you, man, but I just dig the fact that we've got a presiding commissioner that, you know, is proficient with firearms. I think that I don't care what anybody says. I think that's just cool.
Well, all right.
8:59, Ike Skelton. Thank you as always, sir, for your participation. Great hour. Thanks for everybody chiming in and talking to us. Defy the federal government, period. Gas tax money should never leave a county. You buy gas in Camden County, that sales tax money should be used there.
Well, you won't get an argument out of me, my friend. I'll tell you what. Just won't get an argument out of me about
Well, isn't legal immigration kind of the same? Some governors came together for that. Isn't it about safety for all of us? Thank you, Vicki. Thanks to everybody who chimed in. We're going to take a quick break, top of the hour. Stacy Johnson with local information, courtesy of LakeExpo.com. Chris Schneider with the Czech Sports, courtesy of Lake TV. And then the true history professor, Professor Jim Paisley, will join us. He's talking inflation this morning, so don't go anywhere. And keep it tuned right here to The Daily Show. Business, government, religion, family issues, and more. Find it all right here on 89.3 KEYK, Osage Beach, Missouri.
I'm Stacy Johnson, and this is your Lake Expo News Cut for Wednesday, November 2nd. In this election, Lake Ozark voters have the option to move existing tax money from sewer improvements into water and road infrastructure. The existing half-cent sales tax generates more than $500,000 annually and is used exclusively for sewer infrastructure. The state of Missouri has launched a new $1 million scholarship fund to address officer shortages across the state. The Missouri Blue Fund pays $5,000 towards the cost of a Missouri resident attending a law enforcement academy in the state. Scholarships are now available and will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Preliminary data from Missouri Conservation shows hunters harvested nearly 2,000 turkeys during the fall turkey season. Top harvest counties were Franklin with 70 birds harvested, Gascade with 52, and Laclede with 50. Fall archery turkey hunting continues through November 11th and resumes November 23rd through January 15th. This has been your Lake Expo News Cut. All this news and more at lakeexpo.com. Lake news, events, boating, and the lake life, lakeexpo.com.
She's a former Camdenton resident, Hollywood actress and pop culture expert. Tina Griffin helps parents safely navigate the current pop culture chaos. Know how to create a healthy media diet for your family and live as a counterculture warrior. Listen to the Counterculture Mom Show Fridays and Sundays at 5 a.m., 1 p.m., and 9 p.m. on Key Radio 89.3 FM.
I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. World Series, the Phillies up 2-1 after a 7-0 win over the Astros last night. This Phillies team started out by beating the Cardinals in that wild card series, and here they are, just 2 wins away from winning the World Series. So Game 4 will go tonight. Astros need to win it or they're going to be in serious trouble. High school football Friday is coming. Camdenton and Osage will be playing at home district semifinal games. Camdenton 8-1, ranked number 4 in the state, home against Rolla Friday. That's the game of the week on Lake TV. The COMC pregame show at 6:30. The Polylift Boat Lift kickoff at 7. Camdenton at home against Rolla district semifinal. Osage will be at home against Clinton on Friday night. That, too, is a district semifinal. Osage at home against Clinton. Eldon finished their season 3-7. Versailles finished 1-9. California finished its season at 4-6. College football, the first playoff ranking is out. Tennessee sits at number 1. The Volunteers, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson in the top 4 spots. Mizzou will be at home Saturday against Kentucky. MSU Bears will be on the road to play South Dakota. The Chiefs, of course, had last week off. They will be busy this weekend, a Sunday night game at home against the Titans. Hey, Lake TV brings you 5 local lake area shows. They're all greatness. And check out the high school football coaches show with Lakers coach Jeff Shore and Osage coach Shannon Jolly talking about their teams going into the district semifinal games. Friday night, you can check out the coaches show at 10, 2, and 6, Tuesdays through Fridays for the rest of the season on Lake TV, and you can see Lake TV on Como Channel 90, absolutely free on Roku or Amazon Fire, and streaming live all the time at mylaketv.com. I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday.
Programming on Key Radio made possible in part by Skelton Key and Lock. When you're locked out of your home, car, or business, every second counts. You need to be sure that the company you choose will answer the call and get to you as quickly as possible. Skelton Key and Lock offers reliable service, reasonable rates, and they're recommended by everyone. They can cut and program new keys and fobs. They can install new locks on your home, business, or rental property. If you can stick a key in it, chances are it can be serviced by Skelton Key and Lock, serving the entire lake area.
I'm Bill Munhausen for Orion Center Expo. One of my wife's favorite things is the variety of woodpeckers in the Ozarks. The woodpecker has an unusually hard beak, and its skull contains built-in shock absorbers that allow the woodpecker to ram that beak into tree trunks and the siding of your house with equal abandon. It drills holes and uses its ridiculously long tongue to probe for bugs in the siding and soffits. But how did the woodpecker come to be? Some scientists speculate that its unique features came about to enable non-woodpecking birds to adopt a new food source. We can only imagine that robin or blue jay millions of years ago pondering its first tree. Countless beaks were crushed and concussions incurred until finally a woodpecker evolved. But his tongue was too short to get the bugs, so he died. Is woodpecker evolution plausible? Naive stories about evolutionary adaptation are just that, stories. Woodpeckers were designed. They were created to protect forest trees from destructive pests.
This is your chance to get involved in community radio Lake of the Ozarks with 89.3 The Key. All right, welcome. How about now?
I guess that will probably
Was
fix
that
it.
I went the wrong way with it? There we go.
There we go.
Well,
Now we
I'm
got
glad
that.
I'm glad she's here.
Yes.
And happy birthday to her, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're sitting here talking, and my wife just called in and said there's no sound. So here we are. Yes. Our technical advisor has once again saved us.
Technical advisor
Yes.
to Key Radio.
That's
so all those
right.
things that we talked about, nobody heard, other than the fact that it's going to be a beautiful day, 77 the high,
Yes.
and 56 the low, plenty of sunshine. We were talking about the Veterans Day Parade this Saturday in Osage Beach. I guess it gets underway at about noon, 1 o'clock, something like that.
1 o'clock I think is when it starts.
They'll
Like
shut the portion of the Osage Beach Parkway down west of the Grand Glazed Bridge. But as I said, come out, support the veterans, bring your American flags, hoop, holler, wave, show your respect for the service that these men and women have given to our country. And then, of course, we don't always talk about the folks, MIAs and POWs, and certainly those who paid with their lives, and we want to remember all of them as well. Professor Jim Paisley, the topic is inflation, and we are so glad to have the opportunity to spend a little time talking about it. I don't know if people are excited to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it anyway and maybe give people a better understanding of something that this country went through many years ago. It's called the Great Depression, and how did those folks deal with it? But again, want to welcome everybody that is hopefully listening to us on Lake Area Happenings and concerned citizens of Camden County. Thanks, Don Akers Jr., for sharing our feed over there. And if any of those folks would like to have this feed on a regular basis, let me know, and we will make that happen. So let's jump into our topic of choice here this morning.
All right. Real quick, though, I want to give a shout-out to my wife in case nobody heard. Today's her birthday.
Yes.
So, I'm
that's the only reason she wanted to make sure the sound was
That's
up.
right.
So in case
she wanted to hear me make sure that I didn't screw up and not mention.
I can hear her telling me to shut up. And a variety of other things.
Yes, but what a dandy and my best friend. So
Karen, I love you.
Happy birthday out there, Ralph. The nickname Ralph. So let's talk about inflation, shall we?
Yes.
Because I think it's something that everybody's kind of interested in. And
we don't have a choice.
No, and it's amazing to me is that, again, history repeats itself. And I find this fascinating in the fact that, we act like, oh, my goodness, look at this. What are we going to do? The price of gas is up. The price of groceries is up. Inflation is killing us, with the interest rates and all. And we act like, doom and gloom. It's never happened before. Well, I got news for you, folks. It has happened before. And of all things, I thought it'd be interesting to see how our parents and grandparents survived one of these great inflations, if you will. They called it the Great Depression. And believe me, folks, we've got it bad now. They had it really bad. I mean, really bad. And it was interesting. I thought, why don't we look at what they did to get out of it? Okay, and that's what the topic is today, because we're hearing all these great ideas coming from Washington about, oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise the interest rates, and we're going to do this, and the Inflation Reduction Plan, which didn't do a damn thing. And so I thought, well, we've been through it before, and we got out of it. How did that happen? Now, here's the problem. There's a great fable, if you will. And I found a great article in of all things, the Washington Times, written by a fellow by the name of Stephen Moore, and he wrote this all the way back in 2014. And basically, he starts out with a quote from Napoleon Bonaparte, of all people. And he says, "What is history but a fable agreed upon?" I love that quote. History is a fable that everybody agrees on, all right? And it's never been more true than when we talk about the Great Depression and its aftermath. Now, liberals again today are pitching more government spending, or stimulus, if you will, in Washington as what's going to fix this problem. Now, a great historical myth is that Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal programs ended the Great Depression. And I myself have promoted things like the WPA and the CCC. But that put people back to work. But did it end the Depression? The answer to that is no. After 7 years of New Deal-era explosions of federal debt and spending, the U.S. economy was still flat on its back. By 1940, folks, we're talking 11 years later, unemployment was still 14.6%. That's huge, all right? So that isn't much of a recovery. So what did end the Great Depression? Again, the history books get this chapter of history wrong. Most history books tell you that it was the government spending on steroids to mobilize World War II after the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 41. In other words, the government spent all this money for the war, and that's what pulled us out of it. Well, it is true that economic output surged, and unemployment went right down the tubes. I mean, everybody had a job, okay? But periods of all-out war are very different from periods of peace. And it's not any surprise that when you turn around and you have 12 million people sign up to go off and fight in the war, unemployment's going to go down. And, it's kind of, the misconception people have now, Biden's always on there bragging about, oh, unemployment's down. Well, yeah, because we were in the middle of COVID when he started. People are going back to work. So, it's amazing how they can twist things around. But I digress. Let's go back. And so you got 12 million Americans join the military. Now, the author's mother, a teenager in that period, used to tell him that during the war, when fuel was scarce and needed for the military, you wouldn't be caught dead driving to a movie theater or driving around town because it was unpatriotic to be spending, burning gas for things that weren't necessary. Kind of a novel concept, right?
Yeah.
And for nearly 4 years, from 1942 to 45, America was not a free market economy. We were on a war footing. Everything that we produced, everything that we did went towards a war effort. Now, a war economy is no way to fix an economy, obviously. Countering terrorist attacks of the Islamic State is not a jobs program. And during World War II, when we built ships, tanks, fighter planes, and dropped bombs and sent our troops into harm's way, we weren't creating wealth. A war is no more stimulating to the economy than a burglar stealing your money, or a tsunami hitting Japan, or a Hurricane Katrina, or any of the other things, a tornado. Without such disasters, the money that's spent on those disasters could have been spent doing things that would purchase useful life-enhancing products for consumption or investing in technology and capital improvements. Okay, so to look at it from the standpoint of a war is a good thing, not necessarily, because it's not investing in our future. Okay. Now, war and self-defense might be necessary to protect our families, but any economic growth derived from it is far less beneficial than growth derived from free people making decisions on where they want to spend their money. Okay, because bear in mind, during the Great Depression, people didn't have that choice. Okay. Now, in the 1940s, government spending did indeed go through the roof. I know this is going to be hard to believe. The government's spending a lot of money, right?
Right.
The federal share of the gross domestic product rose from less than 12% in 1941 to 40% between 43 and 45. Now, in other words, almost half of everything that was produced in the nation was produced to fight the war. Domestic spending on many FDR New Deal programs in education, training, and social services dropped by almost 90%. So when the war came, they had to take the money out of these government programs, and they then threw it all into the war effort. Okay, but the government is still spending the money. Now, the real story comes after the war. The story is also not covered in this story is not also not covered in history books. Shortly after his third reelection in 44, and at a time when the outcome of the war was no longer in question, FDR and his domestic advisors created had plans for a New Deal. All right. And they had tons of things they wanted to spend more money on, things like national health insurance all the way back then. Now, there was a group that came along that was a follower, economists, who followed a fellow by the name of John Maynard Keynes, and spelled Keynes. So you'd think Keynes, but it's Keynes is how you pronounce it. And this guy was an economist, lived from 1883 till 1943. And he had an idea. He said the only way to stimulate the economy is for the government to step in and spend money. That's where they're getting this at, okay? So you throw money at the problem is basically what Keynes is saying, okay, or Keynes. And he said they can stimulate the economy, get everything up and running. So the government is the one that should fix it, not us. So you can see where that went, right? What a mess.
Let me ask you a quick question. Is that where we started putting more faith in our government to solve our problems?
Absolutely.
Around the Great Depression. And it was almost like an opportunity to kick the door wide open and say, again, here we are, the U.S. government, and we're here to help.
Yes.
And people just, considering the times and what people were going through, and, lines for bread and lines for soup and lines for this and that, people were willing to do anything to get their lives back on track, and the government took full advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Was it at that point, you think, or was it prior to that?
It was right at the turn of the 20th century is where we saw it happen. And, here again, you had what they called progressives, and this is Wilson and all those folks, and they were of the opinion that, we can come in and help you. Okay, we're from the government. We're here to help you, kind of thing. And before that, prior to that, nobody even began to think that if they fell on hard times, a drought or a fire or whatever, they didn't look to the government to help them. They looked to their communities, and they, pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and forged ahead again. But we got to the point where, now all of a sudden the government stepped in and said, okay, we can do this. We can help people. And bear in mind, it goes a long ways towards getting reelected, doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we saw happen. Now, there was a fellow by the name of Paul Samuelson, the dean of these, Keynesians, that economists. He warned that in 1943 that unless wartime spending and controls were extended, they would be the greatest period of unemployment and industrial dislocation which any economy had ever faced. So he's saying unless we keep spending as much as we are on the war, after the war is over, we're going down the tubes, all right? And here's what happened. The government spending actually collapsed from 41% of the gross domestic product in 1945 to 24% in 46 and less than 15% in 47. There was no New Deal. In other words, people are saying, hey, we're tired of paying all this money and the government spending all this money and paying this in taxes. And so the water got cut off from the federal government. Now, this was by far the greatest cut in government spending in U.S. history. Now, people don't realize that. People think when they talk about the Depression, they think, man, that's where it all went through the roof. We spent billions, fighting the war, getting through the Depression with all these programs and everything. But what they don't realize is afterwards, boy, we cut the water off. And there wasn't any more government spending, all right? Now, guess what happened? There was about an 8-month recession, but then the private economy boomed. It boomed. It did just the opposite of what these guys thought. Now, here's the numbers on the private economy. The personal consumption grew by 6.2% in 45, then 12.4% in 46, even as the government spending crashed to nothing. At the same time, private investment spending grew by 28.6% in 45 and 139% in 46. So businesses, seeing that the government is out of it now and they're not going to tax the living daylights out of them and spend money on whatever program the president happens to think is the best way to go, now all of a sudden these businesses are investing again in America. So here's the bottom line, folks. The less the federal government spent, the more people spent and invested. I'm going to say that again. The less that the federal government spent, the more people spent and invested. So this whole Keynesian idea was turned on its head. They proved them wrong. And in 46, the unemployment rate averaged below 4%. Bear in mind, it was at almost 15%. And it stayed that low for the better half of a decade. This all happened during the biggest reduction in government spending in American history under President Truman. Good Missouri boy. So it'll bring us to our next big question. And that big question was, does the Biden administration even begin to understand what inflation is? And so I found another great article, this one by a fellow by the name of Jim Hollingsworth, and this was on the American Thinker website. And he said himself, there seems to be a lot of confusion today about inflation. Pick up the paper and follow an internet site, and you will read that the inflation rate this year is expected to be 2 or 3%. What they really mean is that prices are expected to rise 2 or 3%. Now, we all know it's a lot more than that.
Sure.
Like I say, I saw a dozen eggs the other day for $5.69.
Did you buy them?
No. I was looking for the golden goose that laid them, right? Now, is that indeed inflation? Now, inflation is an increase in the money supply. It's not an increase in prices, folks. It's the amount of money that's out there that people can spend. That's inflation, all right? So why is this definition critical? Well, prices rise because of inflation. They're the result of inflation, but they are not inflation itself. It's important because the government is the only one that can increase the money supply. That's right. The government. They're the ones that have control of this thing. Now, what we're seeing right now is we've seen people, raise holy hell with companies saying, oh, they're price gouging. Isn't that what we're hearing, from the main media? And the truth of the matter is those people are in just as big a jam as we are. They're having to pass prices on. They can't stay in business if they don't increase their prices. But what's driving all this is the fact that there's more money out there. And the only ones that are putting the money out there, lo and behold, turn out to be the government. Okay? Now, this is a big problem because we've seen it in the past. During the period between the two wars, World War I and World War II, Germany owed a bundle at the end of World War I, and what they did is they started to print money. And when they printed it, they literally, they had 4 marks to the dollar. Think of them as quarters, 4 quarters to the dollar. A year after that war ended, as they started printing money, it went to a trillion with a T, a trillion quarters to the dollar.
So you roll up with a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, it was just, devastating to the people of Germany. And that's what happens when a government prints money, it devalues it. Okay? And it's pretty simple. And I even heard Ike talking about it in the previous hour. As they print more money, what happens is you wind up with a situation where more money is available and the prices go up. Okay, it's just simple, okay? But the real devil in the details is the government's the one that controls the money.
9:29, we're going to step aside, take our bottom of the hour break. I've also got an interesting question to ask you during the break from an old school chum. David Thomas wanted to know about something that happened back in 1920. I'll talk to you about it. Okay. We'll address it and talk about it on the other side of the break. Professor Jim Paisley, the true history professor, is our guest this hour. And we appreciate you taking time to chime in. We'll step aside. We've got local information from Stacy Johnson and LakeExpo.com. A check of sports, Chris Schneider and Lake TV. And you, my friends, you wonderful radio listener, you are listening to The Daily Show.
I'm Stacy Johnson, and this is your Lake Expo News Cut for Wednesday, November 2nd. In this election, Lake Ozark voters have the option to move existing tax money from sewer improvements into water and road infrastructure. The existing half-cent sales tax generates more than $500,000 annually and is used exclusively for sewer infrastructure. The state of Missouri has launched a new $1 million scholarship fund to address officer shortages across the state. The Missouri Blue Fund pays $5,000 towards the cost of a Missouri resident attending a law enforcement academy in the state. Scholarships are now available and will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Preliminary data from Missouri Conservation shows hunters harvested nearly 2,000 turkeys during the fall turkey season. Top harvest counties were Franklin with 70 birds harvested, Gascade with 52, and Laclede with 50. Fall archery turkey hunting continues through November 11th and resumes November 23rd through January 15th. This has been your Lake Expo News Cut. All this news and more at lakeexpo.com. Lake news, events, boating, and the lake life, lakeexpo.com.
Portions of the programming on Key Radio are made possible through a generous donation from lakeexpo.com. LakeExpo.com is a locally owned daily news website connecting residents, second homeowners, visitors, and the boating community to the Lake of the Ozarks. Lake Expo features real estate and boats for sale, upcoming events at the lake, and their exclusive boating club, X-Tow. Download the free Lake Expo app on the App Store and Google Play. LakeExpo.com, the lake's trusted news source.
I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. World Series, the Phillies up 2-1 after a 7-0 win over the Astros last night. This Phillies team started out by beating the Cardinals in that wild card series, and here they are, just 2 wins away from winning the World Series. So Game 4 will go tonight. Astros need to win it or they're going to be in serious trouble. High school football Friday is coming. Camdenton and Osage will be playing at home district semifinal games. Camdenton 8-1, ranked number 4 in the state, home against Rolla Friday. That's the game of the week on Lake TV. The COMC pregame show at 6:30. The Polylift Boat Lift kickoff at 7. Camdenton at home against Rolla district semifinal. Osage will be at home against Clinton on Friday night. That, too, is a district semifinal. Osage at home against Clinton. Eldon finished their season 3-7. Versailles finished 1-9. California finished its season at 4-6. College football, the first playoff ranking is out. Tennessee sits at number 1. The Volunteers, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson in the top 4 spots. Mizzou will be at home Saturday against Kentucky. MSU Bears will be on the road to play South Dakota. The Chiefs, of course, had last week off. They will be busy this weekend, a Sunday night game at home against the Titans. Hey, Lake TV brings you 5 local lake area shows. They're all greatness. And check out the high school football coaches show with Lakers coach Jeff Shore and Osage coach Shannon Jolly talking about their teams going into the district semifinal games. Friday night, you can check out the coaches show at 10, 2, and 6, Tuesdays through Fridays, for the rest of the season on Lake TV, and you can see Lake TV on Como Channel 90, absolutely free on Roku or Amazon Fire, and streaming live all the time at mylaketv.com. I'm Chris Schneider with your Key Radio Lake TV sports update for this Wednesday.
Portions of our programming on Key Radio made possible thanks to Lake TV.
Lake TV is your hometown local TV station, featuring Cup of Coffee with Will and Chris, What's Burning with KB, live high school sports, real estate, dining, boating, and of course the annual Lake of the Ozarks Shootout. Lake TV on Como Connect, Channel 90, Roku, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, and of course online at mylaketv.com. If it's happening at the lake, it's happening on Lake TV.
This is Happy Headlines. I'm David Beach, bringing you good news and heartwarming stories to help you through your day, your week, your month, your year, your decade, whatever it takes. Here's today's story. Winston Lee is a history teacher in Whitesburg, Kentucky. He teaches at Letcher County Central High School. He's been teaching for 12 years now, and the story probably made the news because in all of those 12 years, something happened that he'd never witnessed before. In this day and age, regardless of the size of the gesture, gestures are appreciated. Apparently this happened in February, and I just found out, but I wanted to share it. And so did Winston, as he posted it on his Facebook page. He was grading a stack of exams about World War II that he'd recently given to his 11th grade students when he noticed a note written on the bottom of one of the tests. The note said, "If you could, can you give my bonus points to whoever scores the lowest?" Winston said the student is a straight-A guy but couldn't believe the generosity the kid displayed. "I was pleasantly surprised," he said. "He's the type of kid that would often show compassion in the classroom." Winston decided to share the student's note on his Facebook page, where the image went viral. "Have to shout this out. Honestly, have never seen this," he wrote. "One of my guys, a straight A+ guy, offers up his 5 bonus points to someone in need. Anyone, totally offering up what is rightfully his earning, to any peer that might have been struggling especially hard the day of the test. He didn't care if he considered them a friend. He didn't care if they were cool. Didn't matter to him what situation had caused them to score lower. He just wanted to help. Be kind. Commit a loving act." The note gave me so much hope. Let us all be a little bit more like this young man. Winston says that he did as the student asked, giving the extra 5 points he'd earned to a student who scored a 58. The anonymous points donation was enough to boost her grade to passing. She was really thankful, so it turned out great. The teacher said she does not know who gave her the points. I wonder if she knows now. It obviously made her day, and didn't hurt her grade average either. That is a happy headline. This is Happy Headlines. Thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay healthy, and find a way to make someone's day.
We're happy to be the Lake Sounding Board. Community radio for the Lake of the Ozarks. It's 89.3, The Key. It is 9:37. Thank you so much. We are glad to have you with us as part of the Daily Show. And I just love sitting here in the morning from 9:10 until the top of the hour, getting a little history lesson from our good friend, the one and only true history professor, Jim Paisley. And
thank you.
For those of you watching at home on the SRG Financial Advisors, excuse me, Key Radio in studio cam, he's not shrinking.
I am.
It's his chair. I said, you know what you remind me of? For some strange reason, you remind me of Artie Johnson on the old Laugh-In series that they used to have. Dick Martin and Dan Rowan and Laugh-In.
Yeah.
Goldie Hawn, Ruth Buzzy, and just a whole mess of them. And he's okay.
I kept sitting here, and the microphone kept getting higher up, and I kept thinking, what in the world's going on here? And the chair, it just goes down about an inch.
It's the pneumatics in the chair.
I'll be on the floor for it. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to I'll take it out of the stand, and we'll just kind of hang it over the counter there. He's laying on his back.
Does that count as a live remote?
So we had somebody ask, and I thought it was a great question, and that is the fact that there was another depression that happened for about a year back in, 1920, as the listener, the viewer referred to. David Thomas, great question, by the way. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because apparently the government didn't step in and do much then.
No, they didn't, and it is a great question, and it's one of those. It had to come from a former history student to even come up with this question. It's kind of like stump the professor, but I'm going to disappoint him because I know a little bit about it. What people don't realize, most people blame the Great Depression on Herbert Hoover. All right, when he was president, he's the one that supposedly said, well, nobody's really starving and all this, and didn't do anything. But what people don't realize is before he had that job, he was working his way up through the bureaucracy. And do you want to guess where he worked? He worked for the Secretary of Commerce. And he worked his way all the way up to becoming Secretary of Commerce under Coolidge. Well, they had this same mindset that government spending would, fix everything.
Right.
And at the turn of the century, when we had none other than Teddy Roosevelt and his boys out there, expansionist period where we were taking, all of Central America and Hawaii and so on and so forth, we were spending a bundle. And we weren't spending it at home. It wasn't so much affecting us as much as, it had to do with taxes. But what it was is that we were spending gazillions of dollars on places like Central America. And Latin America, we spent tons and tons of money, and we were putting up puppet dictators. And lo and behold, we'd spend a fortune. And basically what we did is we were using dollar diplomacy. We'd go in and buy up their debts and then take over the country and put our own puppet in there. Unfortunately, the puppets turned out to be as big a crooks as we are. And they were stealing the money, and there was corruption and all kinds of turmoil. And so it was a little bit different deal for our listener in that one, in that the money wasn't being pumped back into our economy. It was being pumped into other economies. And so it was a little easier for us to recoup when they realized they had completely screwed up. They cut the money off, and lo and behold, we fought our way back out of it, basically just through our own production and our own ability to get back on our feet. But the big difference is that it wasn't changing the prices here the same way that it is now. Now, that's not to say it wasn't huge. I believe it was up, the inflation was about 18.5%. But people were saying, where in the world is the money going? And then they realized we were spending it all in Latin America. So I hope that answers his question. Yeah. Crazy.
All you have to do is pull the pin and roll it across the table.
Isn't
and the
that
good
the
professor
truth?
will jump in here and definitely help you make sense of the whole situation.
Right.
Good stuff, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you bet.
that.
Now,
great question, by the way, David.
It was. Here's the other thing. Now, again, we're talking about the fact that it's printing money that's what's screwing the whole thing up. And guess what, guys? We have spent a bundle here recently with things like COVID and buying out student loans. And, didn't we just recently, everybody got $1,400. Yay, or if you're a couple, you got $2,800. Well, where did that money come from? It wasn't sitting in mason jars out in the White House lawn, buried in the lawn. They were printing it. And I mean, you want a full-time job, get a job working at the National Mint printing money, because those things have been smoking, boy. They've been running them 24/7, printing more and more money. All right? Now, I want to say something here. Governments have often, like I say, resorted to printing money to pay off debts as well. I mean, we owe trillions of dollars. We owe 1.3 trillion to China, 1.2 trillion to Japan. And we have to pay interest on that, if nothing else. Well, we don't have the money, so we're printing it. We're printing that money, all right? And as you're printing it, and then you have these government programs on top of it, there's tons of money being dumped out there, and it devalues it. Now, so what's the big difference here? Or is it a matter of semantics? The difference lies with who's responsible. As prices rise, we have a tendency to blame the greedy vendor. Now, have we not heard that on the news all week long? Oh, the oil companies are gouging us, and everything you can imagine. The beef producers, they're gouging people. What a crock. Mm-hmm. That's a crock. I mean, that is just an excuse, all right? Basically, they're saying big corporations are making a fortune off of this, all right? But here's the thing. Those people that are producing those goods that we need, things like oil and gas and all that, they're suffering the same way. Inflation has hit them. They're paying more in wages. They're paying more for fuel. They're paying more to get the eggs delivered to Walmart in a truck that's burning fuel. So their prices are going up. I mean, if they don't increase their prices, they go out of business and you get no eggs, all right? Now, what is price gouging? Here's a definition for you. Price gouging is a term referring to when a seller spikes the prices of goods, services, and commodities to a level much higher than is considered reasonable or fair, and is considered exploitive, potentially and unethical to an unethical extent. But who decides, folks, what is reasonable and fair? And further, what is considered exploitive? Maybe we can't provide a legal definition of price gouging. It is just that we know it when we see it. But here's a factor we do not think about. Things that we buy are scarce. All commodities, eggs, fuel, shirts, hats, whatever it is, okay? So the prices rise until supply and demand tend to meet. If a disaster causes supply to be interrupted, like we saw last summer with all the boats sitting off the coast of California, and supply turns around and cuts off, now all of a sudden demand is going to drive the prices up, okay? And again, the vendors have to pay that as well. So we blame the vendors when the prices rise, but inflation is actually caused by government printing more money, folks. That's what it all boils down to. The government spending and printing more money. And I know, this may be a subtle difference, but it's important. When we place the blame where it belongs with the government, then we can figure out a way to stop this, okay? That's the big difference. We need to look at where the money is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So,
got a second to take a phone call?
Sure.
Let's go ahead, caller. Thanks for joining us. You are on The Daily Show. What's up?
Good morning.
Our founders were students of history and students of other governments from around the world at the time. And one of the things they knew was to keep the federal government as absolutely small as possible with only a few enumerated powers, and charged Congress with the responsibility of keeping the country solvent. And then there was the communists of the 60s, in particular Frances Pivens, who went on to Columbia College, where she and her husband developed the Cloward-Piven strategy to bankrupt the country. So this is being done simultaneously with everything else to destroy America. And so few are, I mean, even though it's all out there as what their plans are, so few are willing to acknowledge that that's what's going on here. This is all deliberate to destroy the United States of America so they can institute the United Communist States of America. It's just fascinating that so many people live in a normalcy bias, totally incapable of recognizing what's happening that our founders had worked so hard to prevent.
You bring up a really interesting point, too, because our economy is based on those dollars, money in, money out. And yet the end result of a communist program, like what we saw under Lenin and Stalin, was there was no money in the system. You didn't have to have any money in the system. Everybody had a job to do. You sent whatever you produced to a government warehouse, and it was equally distributed to everybody. Nobody gained anything. Nobody lost anything. But the bottom line is it wasn't based on money. So once you eliminate the money, there's no initiative no reason for anybody to have the initiative to do a better job than the guy next to you. Everybody's going to get exactly the same. And everything you produce goes to a government warehouse, which is then distributed. So you make an excellent point there. Go after the money, destroy that. You've destroyed the whole system that we have. Great call.
When Castro took over Cuba, he put Che Guevara in charge of getting the people to work. And since there was no incentive, they all said, why should I put out any effort when the people who are sitting on their fannies still get everything? So they joined the people sitting on their fannies, and production went down the tank like it did in Russia, like it did everywhere else where communism was tried. And so Che thought, well, I'll give the people a blue ribbon, if they worked. And still the people were sitting on the butts. So Che said, well, I'll shoot a couple of them. So he started shooting the people as an incentive to go to work, just like Stalin had to do, just like every communist country had to do. It becomes forced labor. And that's where another thing I want to talk about is the term radical. Isn't that something like a adjective? People say, well, they're radicals. Radical what? Radical patriot? Radical, so why do they say radical rather than just saying they're communists?
Yeah, right.
Or say they're radical communists?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Great point.
You guys take care.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, he makes a really good point there in that, again, you get into things that, those of you business people out there, I'm sure you've heard of the terms positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is, you do a good job and you get a reward for it. You're going to move up or you're going to get that promotion or whatever. Negative reinforcement is you just have a boss who's constantly on your back and just treating you like a dog. Well, bottom line is you'll get the work out of that worker, but that worker is not going to give you anything extra. They're going to do just enough to keep that punishment from coming. And that's pretty much what you see in a communist or a socialist nation. People will do just enough to keep the government off their back, all right? Now, this brings us full circle back to our whole issue with the economy and inflation. Now, one of the big things we talked about was these programs that FDR came up with. And FDR, a lot of people think he got the job because, they were in the middle of the Great Depression and he was going to have all these great ideas. Well, they didn't know what his ideas were yet about the New Deal. The main reason why FDR got the job, and you'll love this, folks, it was because he was considered wet and Hoover was considered dry. They were in Prohibition at the time. So Hoover was all for just continuing on with Prohibition and no booze, whereas FDR, one of the first things he ran on is he said, put me back in there and everybody gets booze. Well, we would have voted for him, right? I mean, hurrah, right? Now, what we saw is once he got in there, that's when he came up with his programs, all right? And the reality is that these New Deal programs, it put people back to work, but again, the war came along, and that's what really did it. I mean, bear in mind, when they were working in these New Deal programs, it was the government that was paying them, right? And so, again, they're printing money to do all of this. Now, when the war ended, there was serious worry that the Depression would start all over again, and plans were afoot to provide unemployment insurance for a lot of the returning military personnel. But the war bonds that they had sold, during the war, people were investing their money in bonds, government bonds, and that money there was sitting there ready to be utilized. And we come into the construction boom, and right after the war, where you have, you guys saw it, all the suburbs start to spring up and everything in the 40s and the 50s, right? And this is the famous baby boom. Now, the reason why is people had set aside money in war bonds, and the money was sitting there ready to go. But the difference was this was the individual's money, not the government's, all right? So what have we learned today? Is increasing welfare benefits from the government and paying off student loans and printing more money going to get us out of our current mess? Absolutely not, okay? It wasn't government spending, but the shrinkage or the elimination of government spending that finally ended the Great Depression. And that's what should be in every history book right now, but it's not. So therein lies the big issue. When you go to the polls in November here, next week, bear in mind, do you want a government that continues to print money and throw it into the system that's making inflation even worse? It's not the big corporations that are gouging you, folks. It's the government that's printing money, dumping more and more out there, that is driving the prices up.
Second phone call. Caller, thanks for joining us. You are on The Daily Show. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
I want to wish Ralph a happy birthday. I know that's not part of the radio show, but also I loved the Napoleon quote. That just really makes sense because one story becomes a story that everyone believes in, and it just continues. So if we stop printing money, maybe we can all keep hearing stop printing money, and they'll finally listen to everybody.
There you go.
You never know.
Like I say, when Napoleon said, history is a myth or a fable agreed upon, isn't that the truth? And how long have we seen our government tell us, oh, this is what's fixing it? That this is a fact. No, it's not. It's not a fact. It's a fable. But if you say it enough and you get people believing it enough, sure enough, people will go along with it. So all of this government spending that we're seeing, it's not helping anybody. It's actually making things worse. Great call. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate the phone call this morning. 9:55 is our time. Still time for you to get a question or comment into our True History professor, Jim Paisley. I'll tell you what, man, it's a pretty simple fix, it sounds like.
It is.
It's again, what people are led to believe.
Right.
And the fact of the matter that people don't do the kind of research necessary in order to understand how this whole process works.
Mm-hmm.
All they do is complain to the government, and then what does the government do? Well, they turn around, they create the problem, and then they come up with the solution.
Right.
And guess what? Everything is in their favor.
Yeah. Now think about this. This is important. Okay, folks, you all out there have car payment, you have a house payment, and you have credit card payments, right? Well, this Federal Reserve bunch that's in charge of raising and lowering the interest rate, we talked about the government is printing money. They're dumping money out there like crazy. Now, the only way to stop that, in their opinion, is to raise the interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do it on your back. So they raise the interest rate. Now, bear in mind that car payment that you're making and the house payment you're making, that's still going to that bank, all right? Even though now all of a sudden you can't afford to just drive around in your car. You're eating Hamburger Helper instead of eating, steak. I mean, whatever it is. So now all of a sudden you're cutting back. You're sacrificing. You're still making your payments. Well, as you make that payment to the bank has to make payments. They got the money from the federal government through the Federal Reserve. So your local bank pays the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank gives the money back to the federal government where they loaned it from. So they're taking money out of the system, okay, because you still have to make your payments. They're taking money out of the system and you're suffering, and at the same time on the other end, they're printing money to turn around and pay off their national debt. They are the ones that are controlling all this, folks, not the big corporations. It is the federal government, money in and money out. Keep that in mind.
Good morning to the folks at Firefly Valley Farms. Appreciate you listening this morning. Also, Dan Barber asks, how do we unprint money? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, there's what you do. I just now was explaining it. You unprint money by turning around and taking that. The only way out of it is going to be to raise the interest rates. And you remember under Carter, it got around 13.5%, 14%.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You're unprinting it every time you make a payment to the bank on your house or your car. That money is going back out through your local bank to the Federal Reserve and back into the government, okay? Now, the way you unprint it is you get them on the other end of that to quit printing money. So money goes back into the government by you making your payments, but by the same token, if they're printing just as much going out the other way, we're not gaining on it. Therein lies the problem. Cut the money off. Quit printing money. And if we quit printing money, now, as the money goes back out the other way, what you're going to see happen is there's less money available. And what happens is then people quit buying new cars. I mean, they said right now, the cars right now, I read something the other day, the average car is 11 and a half years old. People aren't buying new cars. Well, if the interest rate eventually has to come back down, people will buy them. But what happens is the price of the car goes down. If there's less people buying cars, the corporations have no choice but to turn around and lower the price. And that's how it slowly comes back down. But it's a long, drawn-out process. It's going to take years to get back from what this government has done. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense.
Yeah, it's a crying shame. It goes up, astronomically and nothing flat as you print money. But then you've slowly got to pull it back by raising the interest rates. And you and me making our payments, being good citizens, and paying off our loans and paying our monthly payments, that money is filtering back slowly but surely through your bank to the Federal Reserve Bank and back to the government.
We are up against the clock, sir. Great history lesson again this particular hour. Anything on the agenda for next week?
Gosh, that earlier call popped an idea in my head. There was a fellow named John Law with the Mississippi Bubble. He's the first guy that came up with paper money. That might be an interesting one.
Let's possibly run down that road and check it out.
All right, great.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
The True History Professor, you hear him right here Wednesday mornings at 9:10, and of course he's a regular contributor as a podcaster on 89.3 KEYK, Osage Beach, Missouri. Folks, have a great day, and thank you for listening.